healing grow.
Okay, let's go on the record in the matter of Rachel Gerardi, 23881.
Your Honor, Billy Joe Taylor, P number 82278 on behalf of the people, City of Wyandotte.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. John Bull, P30758 on behalf of Ms. Gerardi.
Maybe you can stand over there next to Mr. Copa. And ma'am, your name please for the record.
Rachel Gerardi.
All right, thank you. And this is a probation violation hearing scheduled today. Ms. Gerardi is currently on probation with this court, and it's alleged that Ms. Gerardi violated conditions of her probation and made contact with the complaining witness in this matter, Ms. Clay, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, and so we're moving forward with the hearing.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and Ms. Taylor, who is your first witness?
Jennifer Clay, the victim in this matter, Your Honor.
Okay, and Ms. Clay, I'm going to have you, well, counsel, is everybody fine with her just testifying where she's at?
Yes, Your Honor.
No problem, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, please, actually, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give this matter to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I am.
All right, thank you. Okay, and Ms. Taylor, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Clay, please state the full name for the record.
Jennifer Clay.
Okay. Is it true that you filed a police report on September 15th regarding an alleged phone call from Rachel?
That's correct.
Okay. At what time did that day you received the phone call?
At 9:38.
And did it show up as a phone number on your phone?
I did not.
What did it show up on your phone on the screen?
No caller ID.
Okay. And when you answered the phone, could you relay to the court what was said to you?
At first it stated that to stay away from Hugh Bennett. And if I didn't, that they were gonna kill me.
Did you recognize the voice on the phone that day?
I did.
And who do you believe that voice was?
Rachel.
And Your Honor, just note for the record, she did point to the defendant.
Okay, anything for the record, Mr. Gopal?
Yes, Your Honor. Mrs.
No, counsel, she was identified as Gerardi for right now.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, the record so reflects.
Yes.
And
For the record.
did you go to the Wyandotte police station to make a police report after that?
I did.
Okay. And you did file a report that day?
That's correct.
And that is all that entailed with that phone call?
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was the date of that, counsel?
9/15/23,
And you said 9:38. Was that AM or PM?
9:38 a.m., Your Honor.
All right, and Mr. Gopal.
Mrs. Clay, is it?
Yes.
Ms. Clay, you indicated that approximately 9:30 a.m. On what day?
On September 15th.
On September
I
15th.
need you to keep your voice up, please, so we can get you on the recording.
You received a phone call which had no caller ID. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And during that phone call, you indicated that somebody stated that to stay away from Bennett.
That's correct.
Who is Bennett?
That's Rachel's ex-boyfriend. Or that he claims is they're not dating anymore.
Okay. And did you at one point in time date Bennett?
I did.
Okay. And you don't date him anymore?
No. Since then, I actually ended it because I had children.
Okay, you ended the relationship.
No.
And would it be a fair statement that you're aware of who Bennett is now dating? Is that correct?
I am not.
You know somebody by the name of Nicole?
I do not.
And you indicated that there was no caller ID, but you recognized the voice.
That's correct.
Now, let me ask you a question. Prior to that date, how many times did you speak with Rachel on the phone?
her personally, none besides them.
Well, excuse me. So prior to the date in question, you had never had any contact with Rachel by phone.
Not by phone.
I understand that you are the victim in another matter, and that's, she's on probation for that. Is that correct?
Am I on probation?
No, that
Oh,
she is on probation.
who's she? I'm sorry.
Miss Rachel.
Yes, that's correct.
So you're saying that on 15th, the very first time, how long did this conversation, or how long did this conversation take?
There's 11 seconds.
Okay, so over an 11-second period, you're identifying Rachel as the caller based on your assumption that she called. Correct?
That's correct, but I'm
And you-
also,
Question's been asked now. And then you immediately, after this phone call, came down to the,
I didn't immediate,
well, I mean,
yeah, short term after, I was at the doctor's office with my daughter.
an hour. It wasn't like you were waited 2 days to do this one.
That's correct.
Would you give a statement? Or just say that you still keep in contact with Hugh Bennett?
Yeah, as of today, I do not.
As of today, but,
As of today, I have asked them to leave me alone.
okay.
They were asking to what?
Friends.
As of today, she asked him to leave her alone.
Oh,
But there were a series of phone calls between you and Hugh Bennett, between the date of this incident and just recently.
That's correct.
Okay. I have a question.
If I may redirect you.
yes.
Ms. Clay, prior to this phone call incident, did you ever speak with Rachel in person? That you would know her voice?
Yes.
And how many times would you say that you had a conversation with her?
The night she showed up at my house, I had a sort of kind of conversation with her.
So you're confident that that was her voice?
Objection and close for speculation. She's confident. That doesn't say anything. It's up to the court to make a determination. She's confident.
Okay, your response.
I'll rephrase. Based on the in-person conversation that you had with the defendant, do you believe that was the same person on the phone call?
I do.
Thank you, Your Honor.
May I?
Yes.
When was that one time you spoke to her? In person?
When she showed up at my house and she got that,
What date?
when she tried to break in, I don't recall.
Okay. So, but it was 6, 8, 10 months ago, right?
That's correct.
Right. And that was the only in-person contact where you had an opportunity to speak. That you spoke to her and she spoke to you
That's correct.
until,
There was another time where shortly after she was released from jail, she tried to contact me on Facebook Messenger.
but that wasn't any kind of conversation.
Not real, no.
Thank you. Do you know Mr. Bennett's phone?
I do,
And what-
not by
Well,
heart.
counsel, that's going outside the scope of, the redirect.
Your Honor,
The only question that Ms. Taylor asked was, had she ever had any other conversation with Ms. Gerardi? And that's how she was asking how she recognized your voice. There wasn't any other questions that
I
were asked.
understand. And would it be a fair statement, Ms. Clay, that voices change and over a period of time?
It's possible, but at the anchor that the
I'm
phone call
sorry.
was, that is the same exact voice that showed up at my house that night.
It was an 11-second call, correct?
That's correct.
and you stated that stay away from Bennett or we'll kill you. Is that?
Or I will kill
I
you.
will kill you.
Anything else, Mr.
Affirmative.
I do have a question. Mr. Goldfarb mentioned that, Ms. Clay, you're a victim in another matter that the defendant is on probation for. That was what the question was.
Was it? I misspoke. I meant it's because the original.
It was not another case.
No,
No, just this case, Your
Okay,
Honor.
that was my mistake.
okay, all right. Any further witnesses?
I do not, Your Honor.
Mr. Goldfarb?
I've spoken to Ms. Taylor and I provided her with the phone records from Ms. Ms. Gerardi, and they would stipulate.
People stipulate to the phone records, Your Honor.
Okay. And so is that defense exhibit?
One.
Okay. And so has that been marked yet?
No, I didn't.
Donna, when's that to be marked, right, Donna?
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry?
What's on this?
Okay. Ms. Taylor, any objection, Mr. Artie staying over at the table to testify?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, and ma'am, your name for the record, please, again?
Rachel Gerardi.
All right, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear from the testimony you're about to give this matter the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
All right, I need you to make sure you're keeping your volume up. And counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Gerardi, would you please give your name to?
Rachel Gerardi.
And Ms. Gerardi, you're on probation.
That is correct.
And one of the terms and conditions of probation is that you're to have no contact, phone calls, person to third parties with Ms. Clark.
That is correct.
I'd like to take you back to the 15th of September. And where were you on that date around 9:30 to 12 o'clock, 9:30 to 12 o'clock?
I was at home, but I traveled to my psychiatrist, which I was getting paperwork for my psych evaluation for the courts.
Okay. And while you were there, did you make any phone calls to Ms. Clay's residence?
No,
Did you eventually speak with Ms. Shaw?
I did.
And at that time, where were you when you called Ms. Shaw?
I was at the Wellness Center, which is where my psychiatrist is located. I was in her office, verifying that information I was getting for the court was appropriate and correct.
Okay. And well, after that, did you have a brief conversation with Ms. Shaw regarding the allegations that were set forth there?
That is correct.
Okay. And when you spoke to Ms. Shaw, did you deny making any kind of phone call?
No, I was in shock.
Subsequently, you went out and you provided us with the phone records for that date.
That is correct.
And these were presented to the prosecutor.
Okay, correct, yes.
I showed you previously at the request of Ms. Taylor, the billing cycle, phone number of 734-377-4328. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and that is not your phone, is
No, that's Mr. Bennett's phone number.
it? Okay, and are you aware that Mr. Bennett is now dating a woman by the name of Nicole?
That's what yes.
And this was a 3-minute phone call. Is that correct?
That was correct.
Now, all the rest of these buildings, there is no phone call directed to this street. Ms. Clay on this record, isn't
No, there's not.
there is no 11-second
No, there's not.
anywhere here. Okay. Now, other than Ms. Clay indicated, other than day you were arrested with respect to the underlying charges, have you ever spoken to Ms. Clay?
Never.
Did you in fact speak to her that day?
Not to, no, I did not.
Again, that.
I did yell out some profanities while I was in the back of the cop car.
Oh, okay.
But I was in the back of the cop car and I said,
Regardless of what you said, you wrote,
yeah,
yelled out some.
I just said F you,
Okay,
and
but that
was it.
10 months ago, whatever.
Yeah,
That, I would say 10. So you have not made any phone calls, you have never made a phone call to.
never.
This. Is that correct?
That is correct.
No other questions, John?
Okay, well, and council, just for the record, this indicates April 30th.
Well, you go through them.
Yeah, so that's 5 months.
I apologize.
That's okay. I'm sorry, in cross-examination?
Yes. Ms. Gerardi?
Yes.
Good morning. Just to follow up with what Mr. Goldpond had questioned you, has there ever been a time that you have contacted Ms. Clay since April 30th, 2023?
Yes.
And when was that?
I don't know the dates. That was social media.
And what was the reason for contacting her through social media?
I don't recall. That was probably, if you want me to be honest about dates, it was probably between April and May.
Have you ever put a third party up to contacting Ms. Clay on your behalf?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever initiated a three-way call with Mr. Bennett and yourself to contact Ms. Clay?
No, ma'am.
The current girlfriend, Nicole, from what I understand, do you have contact with her?
I have a few times,
Her
but that
phone-
was a friend of his that I was friends with as well.
So did your testimony, that was not your harassing phone call to Ms. Clay on September 14th?
I did not call her on September 15th.
I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm sorry, you said September 15th
Correct.
that you contacted the new girlfriend?
No,
No, but the question was, I think, have you ever contacted Ms. Clay?
No, there was a question regarding the new girlfriend, Nicole.
Is that the question?
No, I had asked if she had contacted Ms. Clay on September 15th, 2023.
Okay, when did you contact Nicole?
her and I rarely talk. I mean, it's Hugh's friend, that informed me that he was dating, recently. And her and I have only exchanged a couple phone calls over the past year or so.
Okay, so when's the last time you spoke to Nicole?
Probably about 2 weeks ago, if my memory stands me correctly. I would have to look at my phone records, but it would be in my phone records.
Your Honor, the phone records that Mr. Goldpaul agreed that we stipulated to the court should look at because her phone number is, Nicole's phone number is relevant throughout that. But as of recent, it was 2 days ago.
Okay, well, I'm going to look at that. And do you and Mr. Bennett have any children in common?
No, we did not.
Any pets in common?
Yes, we do.
And what pet is that?
Vanna White, it's our dog.
Okay, and so is there a frequent, like a parenting schedule with Vanna
Yes.
White? Okay. And so your testimony is that you rarely talk to Nicole, just a couple times a year?
I mean, prior, yeah.
No,
Correct.
it's yes or no? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And prior to, you indicated 2 weeks ago, prior to that, when had you spoken to Nicole last?
I'm honestly, I don't know. I might have called her the other day.
No, I said last, no.
Last, I don't know.
Prior, please listen to my question. Your testimony under oath is that you spoke to her about 2 weeks ago. Prior to that, when did you last speak to her?
I cannot recall.
Has it been a
talked to
number
lot
of months?
It was probably a month ago, prior to that, maybe a few weeks.
Okay, and when did Nicole and Mr. Bennett begin dating?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I think you do, because you testified that he had informed you that he was dating Nicole. So, when did he inform you he was dating Nicole?
In this past week.
Only within the last week?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did that information get relayed to you?
By phone call from Mr. Bennett.
I'm sorry?
He's asking me a question. I don't know.
And after Mr. Bennett informed you he started dating Nicole, when did you talk to her again?
The prosecutor said it's showed on my records 2 days ago. I might have called her 2 days ago.
Ma'am, please. Let's stop playing games, okay? You can remember what you've done over the last couple of days. So, when is the last time that you spoke to Nicole?
A few days ago.
So then why did you lie under oath when you said you last spoke to her 2 weeks ago?
I didn't recall speaking with her on the phone 2 days ago, and ma'am, it has been I wasn't expecting to get these questions. I don't recall who I speak with on a daily basis.
In my understanding, you didn't expect the questions. That's kind of the point, right? So I can establish the veracity of your testimony. If you're provided with the questions ahead of time, then you have an opportunity to
Makes sense.
fashion some sort of story. Which it appears as though you're trying to do now, but you're not so quick under pressure to come up with a story that makes sense.
I don't recall.
So your testimony is that you and Nicole rarely talk, maybe a few times a year. Your testimony was you spoke to her about 2 weeks ago, and then maybe 3 weeks before that, and then you just spoke to her a few days ago. So you've gone from talking to her rarely, maybe a few times a year, to now you've spoken to her 3 times within the last 5 weeks.
She has, yes. Correct.
Okay. And when did you and Mr. Bennett break up?
The most recent was at the end of July.
Most recent, what does that mean? How many? Okay,
The most recent was the end of July of 2023.
okay. And how long have you been dating before you broke up?
We've been on and off since the beginning of January. Prior to that, 3 years.
Okay, so you've been on and off since January.
Dating on and off, that's correct.
And I'm sorry, prior to that, you dated him you had been dating for 3 years?
No,
Or
we
you
were in a
dated him 3 years
relationship.
ago?
No, we were in a relationship for 3 years. We were living together,
Okay, when did you move out?
last fall, around November.
Okay. And when did Mr. Bennett begin dating Miss Clay?
That I'm not sure of. He kept that very private and secretive.
Okay, when did you find out he was dating Miss Clay?
I think the beginning of April, if my memory serves correctly. Or maybe the middle of April.
Okay. Did that elicit any more questions from you, Mr. Gopa? Okay. Any additional questions, Ms. Taylor?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'd like to take a look at those phone records, please.
The question, Your Honor, goes back about the page.
The what?
The 15th.
Okay, well, I'm looking at all the phone records.
Okay, I guess.
Because this entire thing is listed in the, is submitted as an exhibit. So let me, whose last 4 digits are 4328?
433, that's Mr. Bennett.
Whose last 4 digits are 5474?
I have to look at, I don't,
It's a number out of Royal Oak.
Your Honor, the Nicole's phone number starts with a 407.
It's an area code and then 407, 6924, I think it was.
Whose, okay, so we don't know that one. Whose number ends in 0329 from Ann Arbor? Do you know?
I would have to see the sheet to be able to, I don't know the last four.
Okay, 646.
Offhand, I don't know who that is without looking at my phone.
And that 5474 number showing up again. It's a 248 area code.
What was the last four? 5474?
Yes.
I'm really good at the first like three digits of a number. And then the following.
797.
Might be my friend Shannon.
So do you know somebody else that has phone number that starts off as 377?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that is my friend Sarah. Or Mary, which is here with me today. Her number is 377.
So, council just, okay, who has a 231 area code? Out of Traverse City,
I have family up there.
okay? What is Nicole's phone number? I don't want you to, what are the last four digits of her number?
I know it's 406 at the beginning. I don't know the last four offhand. It's 406 or 407 without looking at the paper.
What are the last four digits of your number?
It was, it's 6066. But I have just recently switched my number.
Okay, but at the time it was, the relevant phone number was
It was
6066.
2089 at the time. You're on the,
You call 911
Yes,
on the 16th of September?
yes, I was driving and there was a drunk driver in front of me.
You call Mr. Bennett a lot.
And when I have a lot of conversations, yes, throughout the day, every day. Most of the time it's quick conversations because he's working bad reception.
Council, what was the phone number that,
You should see a pen mark on one of those pages that I have marked that I had, that's when I requested who the phone number was, and that's when spoke with this client and indicated that it was Nicole.
the circled one?
And so
From
it's
September 15th?
6974 is the last four digits.
I understand that. I'm talking about Miss Clay.
I'm sorry.
I can't, I'm looking on the 14th, on the 15th, and I don't see that number.
There is none. But from what I understand, Your Honor, that if a third-party call was initiated between like a three-way call, it will come up no caller ID.
Right, so I'm trying to see where that would show on here on the call logs. Because the number, there are a number of numbers from Mr. Bennett's phone. It says 4328. They call into Mr. Bennett's phone, 9:30 a.m., 9:38 a.m., 9:53 a.m., 10:36 a.m., 10:59 a.m., 11:01, which is interesting. Because if you're also making phone calls to other numbers in between. Whose phone number starts with 642?
I believe that's my boss. Ends in 2019.
No,
That's the area code.
734.
I would have to put it into my phone to see who these people are.
So Ms. Taylor, what I'm having trouble with, according to these phone records, is this at 9:38 is indicating a call into Mr. Bennett's phone.
Understood, Your Honor?
And I don't see a phone call into Ms. Clay's phone.
So I'm not an expert on phone records, Your Honor. I don't know, that's why I asked if there was a three-way call or a third-party call. So I'm not sure if she contacted Mr. Bennett and then he three-wayed Ms. Clay. Ms. Clay does have a no caller ID call on her phone for 11 seconds.
Okay, where's that?
Check the image, John. I'll show you the image. 9:38, call 11 seconds. So she has a screenshot from her phone.
Okay, it does say 9:38. 11 seconds, no caller ID, says unknown. And then even into Nicole's phone number, they called on the 14th at 11:50 a.m. for 3 minutes, 12:05 p.m. for 1 minute, 12:06 p.m. for 1 minute. In the interim, you called another number and also at 12:05 for 1 minute, and you called Nicole at 12:10 for 1 minute. And then 12:14 p.m. for 2 minutes. And then you called her again on the 21st. Only one call that day. And you may think this isn't relevant, but the court finds it relevant. Because the court has to look for credibility, especially when I have one individual testifying and another individual testifying. And so I need to weigh credibility as to that. In closing statements, actually, before we handle the closing statements, let me, Wayne County Jail, do you have Mr. Cristal there?
Yes, ma'am. I just had a
No, that's okay. We're gonna handle his matter. I have the attorney back in here. Because I'm gonna handle this matter, then I'll let you, give you an opportunity to, take your closing arguments, okay? All right, and so we're back on the record in the matter of, Rachel Gerardi, 23881, and, Ms. Taylor, your closing statement, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. In regards to the violation of probation established from the record, it is clear that this defendant, Ms. Gerardi, has a pattern of misconstruing the facts and lying to this court. The victim in this case wishes that this court impose a penalty in regards to the threat of the phone call and the violation of the no contact order, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Goldmark.
Your Honor, I'm trying to figure out if there's a pattern of the evidence clearly shows, Your Honor, that there was, according to the testimony of Ms. Clay, there was a phone call that she received about 9:30, and it was a blocked number. The content of the conversation, which took place according to Ms. Clay, lasted about 11 seconds, was that stay away from you or Ben, or I'll kill you, or I'll kill you. There was no caller ID, as indicated, and she had no idea at that time, and told the police when she made her report who made that call at the time it was made. Subsequently, she came into the police station, made her report, and indicated that she believed that this call was from Ms. Gerardi, who's on probation to this court under no order. Ms. Gerardi, in this hearing, we have provided documentation that she did not make this phone call, nor is there any evidence to believe there was some sort of third party involved. Hear this from Ms. Taylor, but there is no evidence on this record to show that that Ms. Gerardi was involved in this crime. We've shown you and provided the records for the case in question. And it's interesting to note that there were a number of phone calls by Ms. Gerardi to to Mr. Bennett, as well as to Ms. Nicole. The interesting part, Your Honor, is that the phone identification, or the voice identification, indicated that, and the display indicated that she never spoke to Miss Clay. I'm sorry, she never spoke to Miss Gerardi by phone throughout the proceedings. She indicated that there was some conversation at the time of Miss Gerardi's arrest on the underlying matter. And that was it. That was 5-6 months ago. This is a burden of proof that shows it's not beyond reasonable doubt we all know. It also shows there were a series of phone calls. And in fact, if I recall correctly, one of the calls made to Mr. Bennett was about 9:30 in the morning of the day in question. There is no showing of this information that Mr. Bennett, it appears, prosecution wants to believe that now Mr. Bennett, who received a phone call or made to, became involved somehow by a third party. There's no evidence to show that. The only person that comes up with that is the people. This is she has been trying to comply. She's doing all she can to avoid any contact with Ms. Clay. She's paying her debt to society, so to speak, with all these matters. And Your Honor, this is a stretch. She's testified, she's told you, yeah, I make phone calls to these people. Do I recall every time I did it? No. But that's not showing anything about credibility. That does not address the credibility. The only true credibility issue is, in my belief, Your Honor, the identification. Miss Clay said she thought it was. Not because she had any phone contact, but because that's what she thought. It's more interesting than when we talk about Mr. Bennett and his relationship with Miss Clay, which has now been broken off. Whatever, she indicated why she did it. I have anything but respect for whatever they want to do. However, when I asked her about Nicole, she said she didn't have any idea who that person was. And when I asked about with Miss Gerardi, any contacts with Nicole, yes, we're friends, we've been in contact, and she was informed by Mr. Bennett that he was now dating Nicole back at that time. What Mr. Bennett may have done, or what Nicole may have done, is, to be quite honest with you, suspect. I would suggest that maybe that's where this blocked phone call came, but it was not at the request or the behest, and there's no showing that it was. I know there's a recommendation. The circumstances, Your Honor, we're asking that relation of probation be dismissed.
Okay. So the court heard testimony from Ms. Clay. The court also heard testimony from Ms. Gerardi. The court also reviewed some of these phone records. What is interesting to note is Ms. Gerardi indicated that she's friends with Nicole because Mr. Bennett was friends with Nicole. So it appears as though but then only that she talks to Nicole rarely, very rarely. In fact, that's what I wrote it down. And typically a few times a year, which would tell me that perhaps you're more acquaintances than friends. Your phone records would suggest that, even your testimony would suggest that now you spoke to Nicole within the last 5 weeks as often as you would normally in a year period. It appears though you and Mr. Bennett are on again, off again. I don't know if you're more on than off, I don't know. But it appears though you also have a problem when you're off or when he's dating somebody else. Because on September 22nd, you called Mr. Bennett 6 times between 5:09 and 7:27. 6 times. On September 24th, between the hours of 8:40 p.m. and 10:36 p.m., you called him 9 times. 9 times. 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 13 minutes was your friend. 8 minutes, 1 minute, 22 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute. And there's a whole slew of other dates of when you're contacting Mr. Bennett a number of times a day. Clearly, Mr. Bennett wants to be with different people. Whatever that is. But it's also obvious that you have a hard time with the finality of your relationship. You don't have any children in common, you have a dog in common. There doesn't appear to be any reason why there would need to be the plethora of phone calls that are made on a regular basis, multiple within a short time period. And then even on September 18th, starting at 4:12 p.m., 1 minute. 1 minute. At 4:15. At 4:49, 12 minutes. At 9:53, 4 minutes. 9:59, 1 minute. 9:59, 3 minutes. 10:11, 6 minutes. 10:29, 6 minutes. 11:05, 3 minutes. 11:19, 3 minutes. And then you have called somebody else in between there, whatever Hillcrest is. This court has to weigh the credibility of the witnesses to determine if by a preponderance of the evidence, which is slightly more than 50%, this violation occurred. The court looked at the caller ID that showed no caller ID. Turn this out in the lobby, please now. Out in the lobby. And based upon the testimony, the court does find that there is, by preponderance of the evidence, sufficient evidence to support the allegation that the defendant did violate probation and did contact Ms. Clay. Therefore, the court's going to proceed accordingly. The recommendation is 10 days jail, continue complete all terms of probation, under advisement status revoked, 60 days GPS tether after jail, $50 probation violation fee. Those are the recommendations. As to the recommendation.
Your Honor, I think that that the recommendation is excessive. My client still maintains the approval, and I would deem that feel that it is error. There is no, for that particular date and that particular call, the court reviewed the record. And it's interesting to note, and I may say, there were a number of phone calls to Mr. Bennett. They have.
Understand, counsel, I'm not going to rehash the testimony.
I understand.
So I really would rather you focus on the recommendation so I can proceed with sentencing.
Your Honor, the recommendation, as I've indicated, I believe is excessive. It is not based on, it's based on the violation alleged. And violation, she has no prior violations. It's excessive. There's no reason to show that she needs a GPS tether. And also, at this point in time, since there was no prior violations, I believe that the additional 10 days immediately is also excessive. Since she's been on probation, she has complied with everything this court has done. She still maintains, I understand the court's ruling, maintains her innocence in this particular matter. Therefore, I believe the recommendation should not be 60 days on a GPS tether, and I would ask rather that she be some additional incarceration be placed at the end of the sentencing. I don't believe that going to jail under these circumstances at this point for immediate sentencing is appropriate under these circumstances.
All right, thank you, Ms. Taylor.
The victim in this case is in fear. There was an incident that occurred in April. The defendant did testify on her own that she did reach out from April to May through Facebook. The court has made its ruling today, and the victim is in fear of Ms. Gerardi, and we believe that the recommendation is appropriate.
It is not lost on this court that Ms. Gerardi is on probation to this court for her behavior as it pertains to Ms. Clay. It appears quite strongly that Ms. Gerardi and Mr. Bennett are on again, off again. And that Mr. Bennett will apparently string individuals along while stringing another one as well. I don't know. The problem is clearly the man in common, and individuals don't know how to process that. There is also testimony by Ms. Gerardi that she did send Ms. Clay a Facebook message as well, which was sometime in after this offense occurred, but before she was before the court. Ms. Gerardi has now contacted Nicole, who she's testifying as a friend, but based upon the lack of communication that they have on a regular basis, the court would classify that as more of an acquaintance, not as much as a friend, especially given that Ms. Gerardi testified that Nicole was Mr. Bennett's friend previously. Ms. Gerardi then was contacting Nicole on the phone, and then she contacts Mr. Bennett a number of times. I don't even think I talk to my kids and my husband as often or call as often as she's contacting one individual in a short amount of time. In addition to the offense that landed Ms. Gerardi on probation, there was the Facebook message that was sent, and now this phone contact. Ms. Clay is sufficiently afraid for her life as she was threatened as well. The court does find that the recommendation is appropriate. In part, the court is going to revoke your under advisement status. The court's going to order you to continue and complete all terms of probation. Quite frankly, if I could order you to refrain from using your phone, I would. But I don't know that that's something that can logistically be enforced. I don't know. I presume you don't have a house phone. The court's going to indicate a $50 probation violation fee. The court's going to indicate 5 days jail. And the court's going to indicate 60 days on the GPS tether. That is to ensure Ms. Clay a peace of mind that at least Ms. Gerardi will not be driving by her home or anything of that nature as well after her release.
Right, I understand. Would the court, at least at this time, not revoke her revised inspection? I'm just asking. I feel that actually, we discussed my beliefs in the town. I understand that the court's ruling. I'm not focused with that. I'm just asking that, give her that opportunity to, finish off her probation. The court considered, not the 5 days in jail. I understand that the recommendation is to revoke the unrevised status. However, she's done a great deal with probation. She's complying with everything else. Obviously, we have a difference of opinion here, but other than that, Your Honor, that probation and to revoke the 74.
I'm not revoking probation.
I apologize. To revoke the unrevised status. That's what I'm asking the court not to do. Allow her to finish out her probationary period. And the report that she's not going to violate probation and therefore allow the status to remain.
Any response, Ms. Taylor?
The victim did just have a question, and maybe I misheard Your Honor earlier. Did the defendant have to have a psych evaluation through probation on this? No, there was some testimony.
Mental health counseling.
Okay.
I didn't order psych eval specifically, but mental health counseling. She was to continue. She was already undergoing mental health counseling.
And Your Honor, she has to provide all of that to Michelle, so I understand she has been complying with all the other terms of probation.
I'm sorry, if you may, I started counseling prior to any of this, and they didn't have a counselor, so
Yeah.
I had to do a
Yeah,
series.
just a moment. You have an attorney that's speaking for you.
Okay.
I'll continue the under advisement status, but the court's going to not amend the 5 days jail.
So Your Honor,
Yeah.
can I ask my client what she wishes to do?
I should have done a whole revisement, no.
Counsel, this isn't let's make a deal.
I know Your Honor.
I've indicated my order. I've amended the under advisement status, so that will continue. Probation will continue. 5 days jail, and upon release from jail, 60 days on the GPS teller.
I understand, Your Honor. All right.
That is the order of the court.
Okay.
You are to report today, ma'am. You're-
I was going to ask Your Honor if we could make arrangements for her to report the next day or two so she can take care of her obligations, work, etc.
Your response, Ms. Taylor?
We don't have an objection to that, Your Honor.
You report tomorrow, ma'am. So you're going to stop over to see Ms. Shaw, and she'll give you that information.
Your Honor, my client has asked me, can she do weekends?
I don't believe that's an option for Wayne County Jail. Neither is work release. It used to be,
I know there's not work rules.
but it isn't an option anymore.
Thank you.
So your client can check with probation, see if they received something that was different, any information that was different from that, but last information I have is that it's not resumed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, have a good day.
Hand me my screen box.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Ma'am? Ma'am? Can you hear it?
No.
Okay.
I have no patience for that. And trust me, out of the day, I'm sitting up here, I'm the one that needs a drink.